If I were to ask you a question, and the question is this: in your opinion, what are some of the characteristics about Jesus' preaching and teaching that made him so incredibly popular with the common people, the everyday folk? I mean, lots of people preached and taught, but people would come by the thousands sometimes, and again they would want to come to hear Jesus. What was so special about Jesus' teaching and preaching? Well, I'm sure very quickly you'd come back with a lot of good answers, such as his relevance, his character, his compassion. All of these are very true. But I wonder how far down the line you would have to go before you came up with Jesus' humor. You see, we don't ordinarily think of Jesus saying funny things, do we? I suspect the reason is that most of us have been kind of indoctrinated growing up that to think of Jesus being a funny person would be disrespectful, bordering on blasphemy. And yet anyone with an open mind at all has got to see that there are lots of stories and images Jesus uses which are downright funny. And I kind of get a kick sometime out of reading some of the old commentaries in which you get these grand old serious scholars who will take some of these images and bend themselves around backwards, upside down, inside out, and whatever, to try to give a serious theological interpretation of a man with a telephone pole in his eye taking a speck out of another man's eye, or a camel trying to get through an eye of a needle. And the reality is, why are we surprised that Jesus uses humor? He was a master communicator. And any effective communicator of any kind knows that appropriate humor is a very valuable tool for communication, particularly of difficult points. But even beyond this, Jesus was a person people liked to be around. And they invited him to weddings. Children liked him. The reality is he was a good guy. We would have liked to have been in his presence for lots of reasons. Well, I've sometimes, several times in my life, preached series of sermons on the humor of Christ. And that's lots of fun. But today I would like to do just one of my favorite stories. And in this story, Jesus sets up an interesting picture. On the one side, he's got a very arrogant, very self-absorbed judge. On the other hand, he's got a little, probably very elderly widow. And he builds a story. So from this, let's look at our scripture lesson. And I'm reading this from the Message. Jesus told them a story showing that it was necessary for them to pray consistently and never quit. He said there was once a judge in some city who never gave God a thought and cared nothing for people. A widow in that city kept after him. "My rights are being violated. Protect me." He never gave her the time of day. But after this went on and on, he said to himself, "I care nothing what God thinks, even less what people think. But because this widow won't quit badgering me, I'd better do something and see that she gets justice. Otherwise, I'm going to end up beaten black and blue by her pounding." Then the master said, "Do you hear what that judge, corrupt as he is saying? So what makes you think God won't step in and work justice for his chosen people, who continue to cry out for help? Won't he stick up for them? I assure you he will. He will not drag his feet. But how much of that kind of persistent faith will the Son of Man find on the earth when he returns? This is the word of the Lord.